On a lonely windswept plain in the midst of an island kingdom lies a circuit steeped in history where the howls of anguished tires echo and many a legend was born. Hi, and thanks for joining us for round 2 of the Missed Apex Formula 3 Challenge as we travel to iconic Silverstone, the home of British motor racing. From the savage straights to the heart-stopping corners, from devilish direction changes to brutal braking zones, the drivers will need nerves of steel to extract the last tenth from the track. To get us underway today, please give a warm welcome to your commentators, Chris Stevens and Chris Catman Turner.
Round 2 of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup Season 6 returns to a driver's favourite racetrack, the iconic Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, for another night of racing. We've seen incredible comebacks, wheel-to-wheel action and plenty of drama here over the last few seasons. What has this classic circuit got in store for us tonight? My name is Chris Stevens. I'll be the lead commentator for this evening. Back alongside me in the commentary box, it's Chris Catman Turner. Chris, it's so great to have you back with us for the first time this season.
It's awesome. I am so looking forward to this one, Chris, with a couple of new elements from last season. The first round was terribly exciting. I'm really looking forward to it tonight.
Absolutely. We have just 20 minutes of this free practice session remaining before we head into qualifying, so plenty of time to look at what happened last time out. In the meantime, let's head trackside and see what's happening down on the circuit. As we see the cars on track, beautiful conditions at the virtual Silverstone circuit. But Chris, let's look back to Hockenheim, the first round of the season. And as you said, terribly exciting event to kick off the championship. And for Danny Henny, the reigning triple champion, I mean, what an absolute disaster it was.
It was. So in that feature race, he had that jump start, which is an unheard of error there from Danny. I was very surprised to see that.
Yeah, and of course, it didn't go too well for him in race 3. Did come away with a sprint race win, but of course, those are worth much fewer points this year compared to last season. So it's a small consolation prize. It's actually this man, Kyle Power, that we're looking at now, who is second in the championship. He had 2 podium finishes throughout the night. Championship leader Bradley Philpott not with us this weekend. He is on sponsorship duties at the moment, so wasn't able to make this round, which he can take as his drop score, of course, assuming he doesn't miss any more rounds.
That's it, but with Danny's interesting performance last time out, he can't afford to make any mistakes either, because as you said, they have 1 drop round this season, and that could well be the one that he looks to take, Chris.
You're right, he has to maximise these remaining 5 rounds, really, doesn't he, to make sure that is the one he ends up dropping, because he scored a mere 65 points in comparison. Bradley Philpott leading the championship on 118. So that just goes to show what a difficult weekend it was for Henny. Probably one of his lowest scoring events in his entire time in the championship. And then we can see the track conditions, 23 degrees track temperature, perfect conditions for racing. A little bit of wind out there, just 3 kilometers an hour, so it shouldn't make too much of a difference. Probably a lot less blustery than what we see at the real Silverstone circuit and the old airfield base. Very flat bit of ground, so the wind tends to sort of pick up around there.
Certainly does. If you've ever been to Silverstone in the flesh, Chris, it certainly does get pretty windy, particularly at the top of those grandstands. You need to take a good few layers.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we'll look more into this practice session in a moment, but we've been talking so much about Hockenheim. Perhaps you missed the first round of the championship. Well, no matter, we can get you up to speed right now. The Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup roared back into life at the Hockenheim ring, with a new race format including a mandatory pit stop, a new point system, and new drivers, making it hard to predict who would come out on top in the series' 3rd season. Reigning champion Danny Henny's title defence got off to a disastrous start when he got a stop-go penalty for a jump start. Through the stadium section for the first time, Harrison just reminding Philpott that he's there, not easing up on the pressure, and Henny into the pits at the end of the first lap. And I'm being told that Danny Henny was given a stop-go penalty for a jump start. That is unheard of. Meanwhile, up front, it was Gregoire Gomez who was commanding the field, leading from pole position until a rare hardware failure cruelly disconnected him from the race. Something has happened to our race leader, Gregoire Gomez. He's not in the pits, so he's had an internet dropout maybe, or a steering wheel a hardware failure. That left Bradley Philpott out front, who overcame a last lap attempt from Luca Harrison to take his first victory in the F3 Cup. This could be a drag to the finish line if Philpott isn't careful. Towards the timing line we go. Harrison runs out wide, but for Bradley Philpott it is going to be victory. Henny recovered to earn himself a front row start for the first reverse grid sprint race and didn't waste an opportunity to make amends for his earlier mistake. Danny Henny takes the lead straight away at the start of the feature race. Lucas Raskovitz is going to try and follow him through into second place. Kyle Power made his way up the order to claim his second podium of the night ahead of Lucas Raskovitz. He comes out of the final corner and takes victory in the sprint race at Hockenheim. And then it's a long old wait for Kyle Power, a full 10 seconds back. But here is Kyle Power. He takes second place, and Lucas Raskovitz his first podium for a while. The final race of the night promised a showdown between Harrison and Gomez, both starting towards the front of the field. But Harrison's race went no further than the first corner. Harrison is out straight away. That is not what he needed to do at all. Harrison with a great launch out of the box, but straight away it's identical to what happened to Felipe Massa at that corner a few years ago. Gomez, spurred on by the need for redemption from being denied the feature race win, kept his head and made his way to the lead. Alex McBride ran a strong race to earn a podium finish, and after damage to his car in race 2 limited his progress through the field, feature race winner Philpott made it to the rostrum as well. That leaves Bradley Philpott in the lead of the championship after the first round, 10 points ahead of Kyle Power. Consistent points from Alex McBride, Spanners and Stephen Williams have given them an early advantage in the standings, while our other race winners Danny Henny and Gregoire Gomez lie 9th and 16th respectively. And as always, you can catch up on all the action from Hockenheim on the Missed Apex Motorsport YouTube channel. All 3 races in their entirety available to watch, as is the Missed Apex karting from Butmore Park that went up this week. All 12 races, 9 heats and 3 finals. So go and treat yourself to a bit of fantastic action with the Missed Apex panelists and a few of our listeners having some fun at Butmore Park. Do make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well, and click the notification bell so that you are notified for when we go live for these iRacing events. And do make sure you are subscribed to the main channel, Missed Apex F1, as well. Tomorrow night, of course, the Mexico Grand Prix race review, where Spanners and Trumpets will be joined by Jonathan Simon and Scott Tuffy, or Stuffy as you may know him on the internet. So we have the 2 biggest Sergio Perez fans on the panel for his home race. But Chris, just to go back to Hockenheim real quick, of course, the heart bleeds for Gregoire Gomez and the technical failing that he had that cost him the feature race win. And he's saying he might be missing around, and he's pretty much written off his championship already.
Oh, it was such a shame for him. He had that race absolutely in the bag, a few seconds ahead of Philpott, and then all of a sudden he dropped out. It was such a shame to see. Some people say that simulator racing isn't realistic. Well, I would say that having technical failures seems to bring it that little bit closer to real life.
Yeah, of course, you can equate that to a mechanical failing on a race car. You know, having a problem with your rig or your PC. It all happens. My mind goes back to the first virtual Le Mans when I can't remember who it was.
It was
had
Max
to
Verstappen,
change rig completely. No, I don't think it was Verstappen. It was one of the Le Mans drivers, but had to change his rig completely in the middle of the pit stop at some time, which was phenomenal. It might have been Nicky Team. That's just off the top of my head. But yes, certainly we do still see these kind of problems that affect the virtual racing.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, though, once they happen, it's very hard to get back because you can't just restart the session and join back in. So it was a real shame for him, but he was putting on such a good performance. And then we had, obviously, Bradley Philpott there to take the spoils.
Absolutely, and he leads the championship on 118 points, as we mentioned, but not racing this weekend, so this will be his drop round, and Kyle Power currently in second place. And yeah, we would think that Gregoire Gomez still has a shot at the gold championship as well. That's currently Alex McBride leading that as well, having taken the silver title last season as well. And of course, in the silver standings, we have Tara Tylus up at the top of those standings. And if you want to follow the class battles along the home, the car numbers are the way to tell the different classes apart. You have a single digit number, or the numbers between 1 and 9. For the platinum drivers, the gold drivers have a double digit number. Their numbers start at 11. And then you have the silver drivers that start at 101. And of course, we have the rookie drivers as well. They all start at 150, which most of them are in the silver class as well. So a little over 8 minutes remaining in this free practice session. Let's take a look at this circuit then. It is a 1 minute 51 flat. That is currently the benchmark time set by Danny Henney. And Chris, we've had some pretty epic races here in the past.
It's been quite an amazing circuit to come to. These open flowing circuits just suit these F3 cars so well. The drivers this weekend saying that it is a little bit harder to pass with the setup that we're using. It's a little bit more dancey and twitchy, which might make it a little bit more excitable to drive, but it might be a little bit more hard to follow. So we shall see if that amazing action we've seen in previous years carries on to this year.
Yeah, a little bit more wing in this setup compared to previous years, but that should make the slipstream a little bit more powerful as well. So hopefully it kind of balances out and we still get some good action. Now, if you are a regular Formula One visitor, you probably know Silverstone like the back of your hand. But in these F3 cars, it is a bit of a different challenge. So here is how to tackle the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit in a Dallara F3 21 chassis.
Hi guys, and welcome to an onboard lap with myself around Silverstone circuit. Just coming through the last couple of corners now, lining the car up to cross the start finish line. And here we go, we're away. Coming down to turn 1 and 2, we're going to take these flat, but we're going to try to use as minimal steering as we can to keep the speed up. In for 1, stay tight through 2. We're going to look for the curb on the left as the braking point, hit the brakes, down 3 gears into the apex. Accelerate as soon as you're on the apex into 4, brake, keep it nice and tight, straighten the car as early as you can, watch the oversteer on the exit as it can spin you. Going to go on to the Wellington straight now. Keep that steering wheel smooth to keep the maximum speed down the straight. We're going to look for the 50 metre board on the right. As soon as we're there, we're going to hit the brakes, down 2 gears, down another 1, get it in, accelerate as soon as on the apex, into left field, nice gentle braking, down into second, rotate the car, hit the accelerator as hard as you can, use all the exit curb, again onto the old pit straight now, minimal steering to keep the speed up. We're going to head over to the left, we're going to look for that last marker board on the left coming up. As soon as we get to it, a little bit of brakes to blend to get the nose in and then straight back on the throttle. Use all the exit curb that you can, but watch out for those 1Xs. Into Maggots and Beckett's, we're going to go flat through the left, flat through the right, a little bit of brake to get the nose in and down 1 gear, accelerate, down again 1 gear, get the nose in and accelerate as early as you can. The earlier you can get on the throttle, the more speed you'll carry down this straight. We're going to diagonal this straight now, again looking for the curb to start on the left. As soon as we get to it, we're going to hit the brakes and down 2 gears just before the last marker board. Get the nose in. As soon as it hits the apex, we're going to pick the throttle up. Again, watch the exit curb for a 1X. Heading down into the last couple of corners, we're going to hit the brakes as soon as the curb starts, down 3 gears, get the nose in. A little bit of acceleration, bit of a lift, get the nose pointed, watch the oversteer, and back on that throttle to cross the start-finish line. It's a 151 lap. Hope you enjoyed it, and good luck for tonight.
Just under 5 minutes remaining in this session. And Chris, one thing we haven't talked about yet is how easy it is to pick up an incident point for track limits on this lap, which is going to be very crucial for qualifying.
Absolutely. Silverstone does have some very strict track limits enforced on iRacing, and actually those runoff areas that are so tempting to use even some of the green little tarmac aprons, you can easily pick up a 1x by not even going fully off the circuit there. These drivers will have had plenty of practice and know exactly where they can push it, each millimetre of track that they can use. But with the pressure of qualifying, you know, that few laps where they can make a difference, they're going to have to be inch perfect, Chris.
They certainly will, and it may well be Danny Henney fastest at the moment, but if he doesn't set the time correctly and keep it within the track limits, then he could find himself further down the field. And I think we are expecting Henney to be taking pole position, or at the very least be in the fight for it, because he's been tremendously fast all week. And then we found out today that all through practice, he actually hasn't been registering 100% throttle. When he puts his foot down, it goes up to 97, and he's had to recalibrate it.
Yeah, that was a big flex there from Danny. I think that he's just sandbagging, Chris. Isn't that the term for it? He's sandbagging. So we'll see what pace he comes out with today. I think he's going to be there or thereabouts. But he was only 4th in quali at Hockenheim, so we shall have to see. Some of the other guys like Luca Harrison, he's going particularly quickly today. And Luke Power, of course, don't forget him, the nephew of our panelist Kyle. He's very, very fast, so we shall see where he comes out.
Absolutely, and of course we have Alex Drolsma back on the grid for this weekend. He missed the Hockenheim round, but of course was on pole position for the Spa finale last season, with a bit of helping hand of a toe from Mr. Spanners Ready, but certainly a contender, and he's right up there in 3rd place at the moment in this session. But of course, pole last time out did go to Gregoire Gomez, and he's been fantastically fast again. It's currently just over a quarter of a second that separates the top 5 in this session. And Power not really showing the ultimate pace, but that's never really stopped him from being able to snatch results. And crucially, he seems to be very fast when the tyres are cold.
That's important. Those first couple of laps will be really useful for him to make some ground. Kyle's got incredible racecraft, having done this for a number of years now, playing part of the Vandenwerks team. He's going to definitely have to show his hand early on, I think, Chris, to make an impression before Danny Henney runs away.
Certainly is. He just comes into the pits, and now that little lock-up on the pit entry there, a handy reminder of how important that's going to be in the pit stop phase for the feature race, getting into and out of the pits as quickly as possible. You can save a lot of time in that, and we saw the effect of the undercut at Hockenheim with Power and his battle with Harrison for the podium.
Yep, it was incredibly powerful there. He just managed to get a slightly better outlap than Kyle managed to get on the inlap, and that just made all the difference, allowed him to jump him, and actually won him that position on the podium.
Absolutely. So final minute of free practice, and some cars just heading out to scope the conditions once more. Every little turn of the wheel they'll learn something new. Luke Power there, nephew of Kyle, as you mentioned, racing in the silver class after what was a very nice debut in the championship halfway through last season. Was on the podium in one of the sprint races in Barcelona, was incredibly quick at Spa as well, and didn't quite get the results last time out in Hockenheim after a few incidents there, but if he keeps it together, then we know he's a very, very quick car.
This is it. This is what separates the experienced guys here, is that they will make sure that they get those results. They won't be making silly errors or under traction or clipping a curb too hard and just spinning them out, because that will cost them vital championship points.
Well, it's nice we have these young guns that we're seeing develop, like Luke, like Luca Harrison and Gregoire Gomez as well, who don't have as much experience as, say, Danny and Kyle, but are fantastically fast. And we do really see that experience come to fruition with those other guys, as the checkered flag is out for free practice and we head into a 10-minute open qualifying session. So this is not like how it runs for officials, for example, where you have 2 flying laps and you have the track all to yourself. As you can see, as Richard Molden, one of our admins, leaves the field out of the pit lane, they're all on track together. So positioning is absolutely key. We've seen drivers squabbling for a tow or trying to get clean air. You've got to time it right. You've got to do it while all the other cars are out on track.
And that's it. It's finding the space and finding a tow down that hangar straight could be quite important here, Chris. And as the tyres warm up, don't forget it won't be the fastest laps that are set early on, but you've got to get a banker in case you make a mistake or someone takes you out, and then you will be finding yourself dropping down the order quite rapidly.
Absolutely, it will take a couple of laps to get the tyres into the window, and it has been treacherous. I was able to get a bit of practice running in during one of the test sessions last week, and got to say, straight out of the pits, the car is a little bit on edge, so it's just taking it easy on this out lap and indeed the first flying lap as well, and then eventually the car starts to work and you can take corners like Abbey and farm the first 2 corners a little bit more comfortably flat out as we ride on board with Alexander Dobbelsberger weaving across the hangar straight there, trying to build some tyre temperature. Alexander Dobbelsberger, interestingly enough, has finished second in the last 2 feature races held at this circuit in the F3 Cup.
And of course, has turned a lot of laps here in a GT car with our charity race, so this is definitely a favoured circuit of his, so maybe he's going to be able to put in a decent time in qualifying.
That'll be the aim as the drivers at the head of the queue start their first flying laps. It's Molden, then Drillsma, then Henny and Harrison who come across the line. We're following Henny and Harrison through the first couple of corners, on board now as he heads into Village. And I think this is a part of the track where Henny has been monstrously fast, because this low grip section of track, everyone's struggling with the back end there, but Henny copes with it beautifully. So we'll get the first sector times coming in a moment. Dronsma seems to be the fastest man in the first sector at the moment with a 33.7, and he's matched that to the 10th. No one else quite able to match that pace. Dobbelsberger showing a good turn of speed as well, 33.8. Harrison a 33.9 in the first sector. And we see there, Dronsberg starting to get held up there by Molden as they head into Cop's corner, whereas Henny in front of him has got relatively clean air. There we see Dronsma in the chrome red and black car tucked up behind Molden, so he's going to be getting held up through Maggots and Beckett's, for example, and that's going to compromise the rest of this lap. We'll get the second sector time as they head up towards the hangar straight. 34.9 for Dronsma, and it was a 34.9 for Henny as well. So even behind Molden, Jones was still setting the pace, and I tell you, he would have had a nice tow actually down the hangar straight as Dronsma accidentally positioned himself perfectly. I think he might just get held up here into the Vale chicane. We'll get the first flying lap times across the board now. So it's Molden who comes across the line first and sets a 52.8, and Dronsma with a 52.2, but it's Henny 0.6 quicker in the end over Dronsma, but Gomez splits the difference and he goes second, a quarter of a second off the pace. Then it is Harrison, little lock up there for Henny, and Dronsma finally finds his way through on Molden. And just a reminder, this is not when the fastest laps are going to be set.
It's not. It's all about finding that position now, Chris. Now Henny has got Molden in front of him. He's going to want to maybe back off a bit as those two squabble ahead. But as you said, he's got Harrison behind. So finding that sweet spot for laps 3 and 4 is a little bit tricky on this congested circuit. Oh, and Henny's gone.
Oh, now that is going to change the name of the game here, because Danny Henny has swapped ends. Did he just keep it out of the barriers? I think he did. Here it is coming out of left field and just gets two wheels into the gravel, just pushing a little bit too hard and too soon.
Yeah, that was clumsy there from Henny, and that will have heated up his tyres as well. They don't get flat spots like they would in real life, but that will have just put a little bit of excess heat in there. So we might have to back off a little bit to make sure his tyres are in optimum condition for the next flying lap. That'll put him on edge though, Chris, and that little bit of doubt will just creep into his mind.
Yeah, I'm told that once you peak the temperature of the tyre, it's very hard to get it back under control again, as we see Kyle Power bailing out of this lap and sitting in behind Henny here. Maybe he's hoping to pick up a tow or maybe learn something from the back of Henny's car. Power currently 7th fastest at the moment, and so it's only a 1/4 of a second margin for Henny over Gregoire Gomez, and it's actually Harrison now who sets the benchmark time on a 51.5, so only 0.04 of a second separating the top two at the moment. Gomez still in third. He did not improve his time on that last lap. Dronsma in 4th place, and then Dobbelsberger. And so now we are going to start to see the times dropping with just under 4 minutes remaining in this session.
Down the Wellington Straight they come then. Power is just following there. Danny Henny in the bright red Venom Works car, and Power in the bright green Venom Works car. Coming down to Brooklands corner here. Kyle Power takes a slightly tighter line than Henny did there. I wonder if he's trying to get out of the dirty air, because he is seen a little bit close. Maybe he's hoping he's going to get a tow down the hang straight.
And I'm just looking at Harrison as well, the current provisional pole sitter, and he's about to get onto the back of Richard Molden. So we saw Dronsma getting held up a little bit behind Molden. It seems like Harrison is about to get the same service here as he's caught up to the back of him. Luke Power, meanwhile, goes up into 3rd place, and that would be the silver class pole position for young Power as we ride on board with Harrison now. Racing in the platinum class, and here we see getting an excellent tow down the hanger straight here. Now, is he going to be in a good enough position to try and pass Molden into Stowe Corner? He is indeed. Molden being very compliant and not fighting him for track position. Molden very much the peacekeeper on the grid, and Harrison will now have clean air. Now, I wonder, has that worked out perfectly for Harrison to reap all the benefits of sitting behind him without actually getting held up? It has indeed, because it's a 51.3. He lowers the benchmark, and his advantage is now 0.28 of a second. He's backed out of this lap, so he'll cool the tyres down and go for one more flying lap. Meanwhile, Danny Henny has lowered his time as well to a 51.5. Still not enough to beat Harrison, though. And Power, meanwhile, has improved into 5th place as well on a 51.8.
He has, and Luke Power is actually in 3rd, just a couple of places ahead of Kyle there, and he's actually improved his benchmark time to be only 0.04 of a second behind Danny Henny. So that even a front row start is looking a little bit treacherous here for Danny.
And suddenly Ishmael Basso pops into 4th place for the gold class pole position as well. That is a flying lap he's set there, a little under half a second away from the outright pole position time. But Basso was another very quick driver in the gold class who did not pick up the points he probably should have deserved in Hockenheim, and he's certainly making up for that now.
He is. That's a stunning performance from him. Looking a little bit further down the grid, we have Alex Van Gien in the number 8 car in 8th place. And then we have Richard Spanners Ready currently sitting in 16th place. You'll know him as the host of Missed Apex podcast. And further down, we've got Rich Molden again in 22nd. And Trumpet's down in 35th there, so a couple of seconds off the pace, but it's very, very tight round there. We're talking thousandths of a second separating a good 5 or 6 cars in that area of the field. So it's all to play for down there. Just minuscule improvements will get you a leap of about 5 to 10 places.
Yes, Trumpet's very much on the back foot in terms of his testing time. I think he only managed to get into the car this afternoon, really, to be able to have a little bit of running before tonight's event. As we see now the drivers on their final flying laps, the checkered flag coming out in 10 seconds time. Here is Harrison coming into Village, and just check last time around, Henny did not improve his time, so it's still 0.2 of a second, the deficit to provisional pole position. Harrison's had that cool down lap and is pushing once again.
Crucially, they've both crossed the line with a few seconds to go, so they both will actually get their final lap in, Chris.
And Power there going slowly, so he's not improving on this lap. Did he make a mistake in the first part of the lap? Either way, Power is not going to be improving on what is currently 6th on the grid. So he'll be 6th at best for the man who finished 2nd in the championship last season. He's pulled off the track. There is Luke Power currently in 3rd place. Can he lower the benchmark further as well? Not sure we have seen a silver driver on pole position yet, actually. I think it's been gold at best. But here is Harrison coming through Maggots and Beckett's, and I'm just keeping an eye on Danny Henny as well. He was very much flirting with danger with the track limits out of Copse Corner, but he hasn't been given an incident point for it, so he's kept it neat and tidy. Could be the crucial difference. Harrison is the car behind Henny on track, so it'll be Henny first across the line. There he is out of Stowe Corner, and he did get an incident point there. He's pulled into the pits. Danny Henny will not be on pole position for the Silverstone round because he went wide through Stowe Corner. Harrison knows it as well, so he pulls into the pits.
Harrison followed him off the circuit. He followed him off the circuit. It's exactly the same thing. So both of them, just that critical moment, just drifted wise. Gomez improves to be minuscule amounts behind Danny Henny, only 0.01 seconds behind. That was very close, Chris.
Certainly was. So, well, now we need to just double check and confirm if there's anyone else who might be able to take pole position away. Dobbelsberger's come over the line. He's gone into 6th place and demoted Kyle Power. And Luke Power's come across the line, but he hasn't improved his time either. So it is Luca Harrison, the man who had the most pole positions of last season, back at the front once again. Danny Henny will start alongside him. Well, we were saying, Chris, the track limits could be the defining factor, and it turns out it has been, along with the spin.
Absolutely. Did that put Danny on the back foot? 0.2 of a second behind Harrison. We weren't expecting that. That spin may well have peaked those tyres just above that optimum temperature. And as you said, it is incredibly hard to get them back into their operating window at that point. So Harrison with an excellent opportunity here to see if he can convert this pole into a race 1 victory.
Yeah, and of course, remember, I think it was season 4 of the F3 Cup where Harrison was leading for most of the race and ended up making a mistake while he was being hunted down by Danny Henny, actually. So he'll be looking to make amends for that particular occasion. But we're lining up on the grid then for the feature race of round 2 of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup Season 6. And it will be Luca Harrison on pole position for the first time this season. Danny Henny, the reigning champion, starting alongside him, with Hockenheim feature race winner Gregoire Gomez starting in 3rd, ahead of Luke Power, the silver class pole position driver, and Gomez actually on pole in gold. Then it's Ishmael Basso and Alexander Dobbelsberger on row 3, Kyle Power and Alex Van Gien, the 2 panelists, starting on row 4, then Alex Johnsma and Richard Aycock completing the top 10. James Wingfield and Tara Tylers with Mark Greenhow, Lucas Draskowitz, Colin Ward, Alex McBride, the gold championship leader, and then Jose O'Donnell, Callum McIntyre, Richard Spanners ready, and John Cox completing the top 20 for this grid. Chris, what are we expecting from this one?
Well, what Harrison will be expecting is to give Henny plenty of space on the inside after his race 3 incident on lap 1, where he was flipped out of the race from a very commanding position. He's got to be desperately careful to avoid that, Chris.
Certainly does. The points are going to be absolutely crucial for his championship, of course, and Harrison has been known to get involved in incidents, a fiercely quick driver, but even when driving on his own, of course, we remember Barcelona last year when he was dominating that feature race, but he threw it away with just a lap and a half to go. And I'm sure those moments are going to be in the back of his mind. All 5 lights are on, and we're about to get underway for the feature race at Silverstone. It's lights out, and Harrison makes a very good getaway from pole position. Henny is tucking in behind him, and he's going to try and challenge him down into the first couple of corners. Kyle Power goes out wide, as does Colin Ward. There we see the 3rd place car of Gregoire Gomez, but it's side by side for the lead of the race. Henny trying to go around the outside. Harrison's got in a bit too deep, almost off the circuit, and Henny showing the long way round of the loop. Can he get it round there, almost onto the grass, and he's slow out of the corner. That gives Gregoire Gomez the run onto the Wellington straight, side by side for 2nd place. Harrison moves over to the left-hand side. That gives Gomez a bit of a slipstream, actually, and he's using that to get past Henny. Gomez down the inside into Brooklands, but Henny's braving it out the long way round. Incredibly close. We remember how close they got in the closing stages of last season's race, but this time they managed to survive.
That was incredibly close. Gomez had to back out of that one to avoid a front corner to rear corner contact there, Chris. And Danny Henny now giving the slipstream on Harrison, so that's going to bring him back in as they come through the fast right-hander. Oh, he's made a little bit of understeer there, run a bit wide, so that's costed him a bit of time.
Yes, remember, cold tyres and brakes, they've got to bring those up to temperature, so it's got to be tippy toes on these opening couple of corners. And there we see the understeer for Danny Henny there, because those front tyres are not up to temperature, just costing him a little bit of time. To Harrison there, actually held up Gomez in the middle of Mackets and Beckett's. That gives Luke Power a bit of momentum on him down the hanger straight. Another great slipstreaming opportunity. And on board with Power as he looks towards the inside of Stoke Corner to try and get up onto the podium, but Gomez stands his ground and hangs on to that 3rd place spot. Now here comes Ishmael Basso trying to get around the outside. There you see the danger. If you make an attack and it doesn't quite work, you will come under pressure straight away. We've got 1 car in the pits already, and I believe it's Kyle Power.
That's a bold strategy from Power, unless he either that or he let it jump the start. And there's Gomez down the inside, Chris, down Henny. He's got him.
Wow, fantastically brave stuff from Gregoire Gomez up the inside of Abbey, but Henny's coming back at him. This is where he was challenging for the lead on the opening lap, and it's Henny around the long way once again. He'll have the line into the loop, but Gomez, and now Gomez doing exactly what Henny did on the opening lap. It runs out a little bit wide, and Henny gets back through into 2nd place. Music to the ears of Luca Harrison, who is now leading by 1.9 seconds, but it's now 3 wide for 2nd place as Power comes into this as well. Henny on the inside stands his ground and hangs on to the place, but this is thrilling stuff. Look at all those cars fighting for position. Power trying to get up on the inside of Gomez as well, and did he just tag the rear tyre there of Gregoire Gomez? If he didn't, it was unbelievably close.
So close, Chris. There is no damage on that front wing. Gomez tucking just underneath Danny Henny's rear wing here. He's going to try and see if he can stay close to him, because there is no way through there unless you are very, very brave indeed. Watching out behind as well for Basso and Dobbitsberger in 5th and 6th. They will want to capitalise if there's any contact in this little scrap.
Look how much more momentum Gomez had out of Copse Corner. If there was a longer straight there, I've no doubt he would have had Henny there and then. But here we are back onto the hanger straight. Gomez right into that slipstream of the reigning triple champion. Henny weaving one way and then the other to try and break that toe. But Gomez not having the run he needed to challenge Henny down into Stoke Corner that time. So it's Henny who holds 2nd, then Gomez and Luke Power, Ishmael Basso and Alexander Dobbitsberger. That is the pack we are seeing. There's a little lock up there for Gomez, and is that Dobbitsberger about to get up the inside of Basso for 5th place? I think he was trying it. Basso looked a little slow out of the corner as Luca Harrison sets the fastest lap of the race at 51.8. That's the first flying lap. We're now on lap 3, and you see that battle there is kind of broken up a little bit. Here we are with Luke Power trying to get past Gregoire Gomez onto the podium. Henny's broken away a little bit, and Power just locking the inside front there late into the corner. Gomez having to take the narrower line into there. And is that going to give Power the run he needs down the Wellington straight? It doesn't look like he's quite close enough to challenge to Brooklands. Oh, and just behind them, we've got Alex Johnsmer in 7th place, making moves as well down into Brooklands. Just saw it in the back of shot there. He's getting past Ishmael Basso, but he's on the wrong line through Luffield. Can he brave it out around the outside? That'd be amazing if he could. He's got the momentum, and they're still side by side, but now Drillsborough is able to chop the nose of Basso there, and he moves into 6th place.
Fantastic move there. I was just checking back where Kyle Powers got to. He's stuck in a lot of traffic, Chris. That early pit stop I don't think is going to pay off for him, whether it was a penalty or not, but he's certainly going to be finding it hard to make progress through the field.
Yeah, I wonder if he had damage that he needed to have repaired, because I'm not sure stopping on lap 1 is necessarily the way to go in terms of the strategy. It would certainly be a very brave call, but we'll see how it plays out later in the race, running on lap 3 of 14 with a mandatory pit stop for the top runners still to come. Power, of course, he can run to the end of the race if he so wishes, but I'm sure those tyres will be crying enough by the time they reach the checkered flag, and it's getting very close indeed now for 3rd place once again, as Gomez looked a little tight into the Vale chicane. We saw Gomez going up the inside of Abbey last time around. This time it's Power getting up the inside of Gomez and taking 3rd place away. Cracking move there.
That was fantastic, and there was no way back through for Gomez there. He's got to see if he can line himself up. Power makes a little lock up there. Has that cost him some time, giving him some momentum against Gomez, who's going to try and see if he can come back down this 2nd straight? And also behind them, you've got Drillsman and Dobertsberger having a good battle too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dobertsberger currently in 5th place, and Dronsma made a move down the inside last time around. He's doing the same again, this time on Dobertsberger for 5th place, and he goes through. So Dronsma making his way through the pack quite nicely there on his return to the championship. And I will just say that little battle that Power and Gomez were having has allowed Danny Henny to sort of build a bit of a gap. He's got 2 seconds over Luke Power now, and he's just starting to eke into the gap that Harrison built in the opening stages of this race. It's down to 1.6 seconds.
He's managed to nurse those tyres into that good window now. Maybe Harrison went off too quickly at the beginning. Maybe this is Henny's strategy, and he's just eating away little chunks every corner. It's just coming down a little bit, so we should expect to see Henny probably up with Harrison in the next couple of laps. Could he position himself for that powerful undercut that we saw last time out, Chris?
Certainly could, and of course it was Harrison using the undercut to good effect last time out in his podium battle with Kyle Power, so he certainly knows how to utilise the strategy. For Henny, it wasn't really making much of a difference when he was recovering from his drive-through penalty. But hey, we have a race on our hands after being so worried that Henny was going to romp away with this thing. We've got to fight. And this time, Henny sets the fastest lap of the race and was 0.2 quicker than Harrison. The gap down to 1.6 seconds. We're on lap 5 of 14. There's still plenty of time for Henny to try and mount a challenge on Luca Harrison.
Absolutely. There's a couple of little lockups going on in this little battle that we're watching, with Luke Power being chased by Gomez, Drillsman and Dobertsberger. They're quite close to each other, Chris, but nobody's yet in that position to make a move. I think Gomez had a little bit of a mistake going into the arena complex, and that's just put him a little bit further back. Not able to get in this time.
Yeah, so Power, having taken that 3rd place spot, isn't exactly driving away from the pack here. Gomez has been able to sort of regain his composure and is matching the pace, most definitely, of Luke Power. But he's got to be careful because Dronsma has been making up places behind him, and they're just starting to drop there. Dobertsberger and Basso behind them as well. So the rate we're going at the moment, it doesn't look like it's going to be a 3rd consecutive feature race podium for Alexander Dobertsberger. Just in the rest of the top 10, by the way, we have Lucas Raskovitz in 8th place, Callum McIntyre, another one of our rookie drivers from driver 61, and Tero Tylus, the silver championship leader. He's inside the top 10 as well. Of course, these are very important battles for the class championships as well.
They are indeed, and just to give you an update on where Kyle Power got to, he's back up at the 22nd place, so he might be positioning himself for a reverse grid pole position, although don't forget everybody in front of him still has to make a pit stop, but he's not catching up with the guys in front. He's kind of just in a little part of his own there. He's not really making much inroads so far. ahead of him.
Now,
Alex.
sorry, Chris. Gomez in 4th place was very slow out of the final chicane, and that has put Alex Jonesma right on his rear wing, and he runs a little wide there into Village, and this could be another manoeuvre for Alex Jonesma to make as he gets a good run here out of the loop and down the Wellington straight we go. Gomez feeling the need to run a little bit more curve here, and there we see the power of the slipstream as Jonesma looks towards the inside, and Gomez wasn't defending it. He's going to try and go the long way round. That'll have the line into Luffield, and that's textbook defending from Gregoire Gomez. He's already lost a position on the podium, and he's not going to relinquish this 4th place easily either. Side by side once again as they head down towards Copse Corner, and Josma's not going to go around the outside there, and they both very much abuse the track limits there, and that's brought Dobbelsberger and Basso right back into play because they are really catching these guys down as we go through Maggots and Beckett's once more, and it's going to be the exit out of this right-hander that's going to be crucial for Jonesma.
It is, and all this squabbling has given them a bit of a breathing space here for Luke Powers, so he has almost cemented that 3rd place. Dobbelsberger gets a good run, he's going to the inside.
Wow, that was incredibly close to the grass. Jonesma really squeezed him there, and round the outside Jonesma goes to try and hang on to the place. They got very close to contact there, but another great piece of racecraft from those two drivers who have had incredible battles in this championship throughout the seasons.
Absolutely, that outside line at Stowe there is definitely the favoured line. You can sweep around the outside, carry a bit more speed and hold your position. So going to the inside isn't necessarily the best move, but if he's not going to defend it, that's all you can do, Chris.
And here we see Dobbelsberger looking back from the rear wing. We see Basso hounding him for that 6th place spot. Basso, of course, the gold driver, currently 2nd in class. The lead honours go to Gregoire Gomez in 4th place there, but here we see Basso. He's got a run here on Dobbelsberger. Dobbelsberger moving over to the right-hand side. Basso to the outside for the left-hander of Brooklands. Can't go around the outside there, or try and tuck back in behind him, get the run out of Luffield. And isn't it great to see these inter-class battles as well? They're not just fighting for their own classes, they want the overall positions that go with them as well.
What a fantastic run by taking a slightly different line there. He's going to go to the inside. This could be a Hamilton Verstappen style move here. See, he thought better of it this time, I think.
He really backed out of that.
Yes, he backed out of it and actually got it wrong on the exit, so he'll have picked up a 1x in there as well.
Yeah, and you've got to be careful actually, because I think it's only 12 before you get a stop and go penalty, and Dobbelsberger is actually on 9 at the moment, so he's got to be very careful that he doesn't abuse the track limits too much in the remaining 7 laps of this race. We're just coming up to half race distance now, and we haven't seen any movement in terms of the pits from these top drivers just yet.
Speaking of the top drivers, Danny is slowly chipping away at Harrison's lead. He's now down to 1.2 seconds as you just see someone diving into the pits there, Chris.
It's Jonesma. So Jonesma's the first one to blink then of this sort of leading pack. And of course, across the timing line, he'll move forward a little bit because you cut out that whole last few corners of the lap. But it's Jonesma, the first of the leaders in. So he'll come in, stop on his mark, get a quick refill and head back out. Now, the crucial thing to remember here is the cooling cycle that you get on the tyres as well. They're thinking at this point that the tyres will start to overheat and you lose performance. Giving them this cool down cycle is what makes the undercut powerful, but it's going to be really crucial what sort of traffic he comes back out into. He's in 13th place, but he's got Ivan Anderson pretty close in front of him as well. So I'd say that's less than ideal for Jonesma. How are the others going to react?
You would hope that they would pit the next lap if they've seen it. That's the problem, is they may not have a spotter, which makes it harder to see. They haven't got the pit wall behind them. He's got to really clear this guy in front because he's clearly much quicker. He's going to have to make this move stick nice and early on in the lap if he's going to make an inroad on the guys in front, make that undercut work.
Certainly is. He's pretty much got to do him now, isn't he?
Yeah, Anderson went wide, but don't forget there are lots of different lines through Luffield Complex. He's got a good run on him. I think he's going to have to tuck in behind him for Copse and through Maggots and Beckett's and then do him down the hanger straight.
Well, the more time he spends looking at the back of Anderson's car, the more time he's going to be losing to his rivals on track. As we see, the battle between Dobsberger and Basso for what is now 5th place is really closing up as well. They're just heading down the hangar straight.
We see if any of them duck into the pits. Dobsberger moves across. Yes, he goes, and that means that Basso stays out. He did the opposite. So here goes Dobsberger.
Now, Dobsberger was the car directly behind Jonsma, so this will be key to see how much time Jonsma has lost, tucked up behind Anderson.
That was a good pit entry there from Dobsberger. Didn't lock any wheels. Nice and safe, but fast, conveniently. So we shall see where he comes out.
There is Gregoire Gomez currently holding 4th place, and now we'll see very little in his mirrors compared to a few laps ago where he had Drumsma and Dobsberger and Basso bearing down on him. Basso a little bit further back now because of the battle with Dobsberger. And Dobsberger just coming out of the pits now, and he's behind Drumsma. He's behind Ivan Anderson as well. He's come out ahead of Power, but yeah, so Drumsma didn't actually lose too much time. Actually, he's a good 2.5 seconds ahead. So
yeah, that was a
even
massive
with
undercut.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, is that because Dobsberger was battling with Basso and it negated the difference, or is the undercut that powerful? Well, I'm sure we're going to see as the rest of the top drivers come into the pits. But Dobsberger is now facing the issue that Drosma was a lap ago, looking at the back of Ivan Anderson.
Now, Chris, coming back to the front, we have Henny only a second behind Harrison, and they're on lap 9 of 14. Don't forget all the other cars making their pit stops, coming down the hangar straight now. Will we see one of these two? Will Henny pull the trigger and try and get the undercut, because it's clearly more powerful than the second? Harrison looks to go in, but he doesn't. Neither of them going through this time. So yet another lap. This is a game of cat and mouse, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, it's mind games, isn't it? Henny lost a little bit of time to Harrison, actually, that last lap around. I noticed the gap about a lap ago did sort of dip under 1 second and then went back out again, but it's now 9/10 of a second as they start lap 10. 5 laps to go. These drivers still to make their mandatory pit stop, and it could be absolutely crucial in determining the outcome of this race. And so far from Harrison, he's been absolutely neat and tidy and perfect. He's had the pressure of Henny kind of whittling down that gap that he built in the early stages of the race while Henny was defending second place. He's not put a foot wrong, and now the pressure's really starting to mount with 5 laps to go.
And now we're looking at Carl Power, who's now come through back into the top 10 after his early pit stop, making some good moves through the field.
Yeah, so he doesn't actually need to make another stop because he did it on the first lap, unless that was another situation like we saw with Henny in Hockenheim, where he got a drive through for whatever reason. I could only imagine it'd be a jump start, but I'd be very surprised if that was indeed the case. So we don't think he's got to stop again.
If true, that's a very bold strategy from Kyle. You know, starting at the end of lap 1. And then what the problem is, you get stuck in traffic and trying to make your way through when all the other cars are battling and they're close together at the beginning of the race.
That's why I wonder if he had damage somewhere. We saw him go wide at the first corner. He was definitely in the sort of carbon fibre zone, wasn't he? And I do just wonder if he picked up a little bit of damage that needed to be fixed and decided to just take the mandatory pit stop there and then and sort of limit his losses, really.
Here we go, Chris. Now change for the lead. Harrison pits from the lead ahead of Henny. So he's pulled the trigger first. Now we will see if he can keep that lead position with a fast outlap. Henny's got to really hammer time now and see if he can make up that gap.
So this is crucial. At the end of lap 10, the race leader, Luca Harrison, has come in, and that stopped Henny from getting the undercut on him. So he's made the strategic decision there. So surely, based on the evidence we've seen so far, Harrison will be able to build just a little bit of a gap here. And I'm looking at Harrison now, and he's come out in perfectly clean air. There's a car maybe 3 seconds up the road, or a little bit more than that, actually. He's got a good 10 seconds of clean air in front of him, actually. So that's worked out really well for him. He's come out in 4th place. Henny's got clean air as well, obviously being now the race leader, but how is it going to play out when he comes in to make his stop? Obviously, it's still yet to stop Luke Power and Gregoire Gomez in second and third place now.
Has Henny missed his opportunity to take the lead? He is really pushing on this lap, making the most of the track and some, taking that green exit curbing, coming through Maggots and Beckett's now, really leaning on those tyres. He's hopeful that that cool down cycle will come shortly. Down the
surely
straight.
His tyres are in the overheating phase at this point, and he might just be losing a little bit of time, because we're actually seeing that Luke Power is not really that far behind him as well. It's only 2.3 seconds. That gap's actually come down a little bit. So they're both really pushing at the moment, and now Henny peels into the pits. This is going to be the crucial moment here, because Luca Harrison is coming down the hangar straight, and where will Henny emerge relative to Harrison? It was a decent stationary time for Harrison as well. Not the fastest, but 4.6 seconds. We'll see what it is for Henny, as he's going to stop right down the end of the pit lane, being the number one car. Obviously another couple of cars in as well. So Luke Power and Gregoire Gomez have followed him in as well. And Harrison is just coming down the start-finish straight now, and it was a quicker stationary time for Henny. Harrison's coming around the first corner now, and Henny is ahead. Henny is ahead. He's taken the lead of the race, but he's on cold tyres. Harrison is up to temperature. He's right on the tail of Danny Henny, and he's looking towards the inside, locking up his brakes so he doesn't go into the side of him. And now we have got a race on our hands for the lead of the race. 3 laps to go. It's Henny in front of Harrison for the first time this race.
Harrison was so close to just tagging the back of him there. He gave everything to try and get in there. In fact, he ruined his run down the straight. Luckily, that back marker just jumped straight out of the way. So, yeah, that was critical there for Henny to get out. As you say, Chris, he's got some slightly cooler tyres now. Harrison's really got to push, see if he can get past.
We're on board with Harrison as they come down the old pit straight, and surely if Harrison's got a moment, he's got to pounce in these first couple of laps while Henny is getting those tyres up to temperature. Harrison's already gone through the most difficult part of that stage on the out lap. Henny is still going through it. Gap's just half a second as they come through Maggots and Beckett. And this is a view that Henny has not had all race long, with nothing in front of him and everyone behind him in his mirrors. Is Harrison close enough to challenge him down the hangar straight? You see Henny weaving, trying to break that toe. I feel like this is the most under pressure he has felt in any of these seasons of the Missed Apex iRacing series he's been running through Formula Renault and the F3 Cup. He's certainly feeling the pressure now, but Harrison not able to challenge at the moment.
The quality of this field is so high, and Henny definitely feeling the pressure. But so far, he's not put a foot wrong in this race, managed to just clamber back up to the top, and he's just got to last a couple more laps with Harrison bearing down on him.
2 laps to go, and the gap just starting to eke out ever so slightly. Henny is starting to find his feet as Harrison missed the window of opportunity to try and upset Henny and disturb his rhythm a little bit there. Meanwhile, it's still Luke Power in third place. He was still ahead of Gomez and Dronsma behind them, but all eyes on this lead battle as Henny's really starting to find his feet now. Down the Wellington straight, gap is up to 3/4 of a second.
He's soon going to lose that toe, Chris. That Luca needs to keep within 0.8 of a second, I believe it is, around this circuit to make sure that he can just get that drag down the straight. Anything more than that, and Henny will just start to be able to just feel him just drifting back a little bit, looming a little bit less in his mirrors, and he's going to be comfortable for that final lap.
Well, isn't this just sort of classic Danny Henny, really, where he's kept his composure all race long and has probably saved a little bit of tyre, waiting for the moment that Harrison was going to come into the pits.
Well, we were worried a little bit that Harrison had gone away, desperate at the beginning to try and see if he could build that gap to Henny, but he just chipped away slowly at it. And as you said, Chris, he's probably just got a little bit left in him towards the end of the race.
The gap hasn't expanded past 0.7 of a second as Harrison goes out wide there. I was actually going to bring this up earlier, but Henny's used more of his incident points. He's currently sitting on 9, Harrison on 5. So he can sort of afford to abuse the track limits a little bit more to try and catch up to Henny. But the last lap of the race is now starting. Henny leads by nearly 0.8 of a second now. And it looks like Harrison's last opportunity to try and take the lead away from Henny has gone. And for Henny, this would be, of course, his second victory of the season, his first feature race victory of the season, and his fourth victory overall at Silverstone as well in the F3 Cup.
Harrison must have made a mistake there. He's dropped over 2.5 seconds back now, so I think that is it for the lead. Coming back to Gregor Gomez in 4th place, just off the podium, a couple of seconds behind Luke Power, making an excellent drive here to that last podium position.
Yeah, it certainly has. Not sure what happened to Harrison down into the village of the loop there, but he suddenly dropped 2 seconds to Henny there, and is now only 1.3 ahead of Luke Power, but certainly looks like it would be safe from any sort of attack as long as he keeps it on the road on this final lap. And here we are talking about the youngsters. I mean, there they all are in 2nd, 3rd and 4th at the moment, and they've really put the pressure on Henny. When you remember the first lap of the race when he was desperately trying to hold on to 2nd place.
Absolutely, that early phase, Henny looked to be really struggling with understeer, Chris, and we were wondering whether he could make any indents of Harrison at all, but it's ended up as doing just that.
Well, Danny Henny has said that this is going to be the most difficult season of his career, with the challenge from the others, and it was challenging for him today, but he is going to emerge victorious in the feature race at Silverstone. Round 2 goes to Danny Henny, and Luca Harrison follows him home in 2nd place. Luke Power takes another podium finish, only his 2nd in the championship, and Gregoire Gomez takes the gold class victory with him as well, and Power taking the silver class victory as well there. And Alex Stronsma in 5th place. Then it's Alexander Dobutsberger, Ishmael Basso, Kyle Power eventually comes across the line in 8th place after dramas earlier on. Then it's Callum McIntyre and Lucas Raskovitz completing the top 10.
And we are hopefully joined in the box by our race victor, Danny Henny. Danny, you really had to work for that one, your first feature race victory of the year, making the overcut work. Tell us, that's not what we expected. How did it go?
Yeah, that was really tough. Really tough. The first lap didn't go as planned. Obviously, I went for Luca, and it kind of backfired because it put Greg on my tail and put a bit of a gap. But yeah, just really tough. Every lap, it was like a 10th here, 10th there. And then he kind of stole my strategy. I was going to come in first and try and do the undercut. And then when he dived in, I kind of had no choice but to try the overcut. And I just pinned it, absolutely pinned it. And thank God it worked.
Yeah, there were a couple of laps there where it looked like you two were playing cat and mouse, diving towards the pits and then not going in. It looked like it was a very interesting strategic race. How was that lap with the overcut, Danny? Because you looked like you were really pushing it through Beckett's.
Yeah, it was a bit sketchy. I nearly dropped it a few places. But I knew I had one chance. I was just getting on the tail of him. And I knew I had to do something different. So yeah, just pushed it. Nearly dropped it, but it held together. But the tyres, wow, they've not been like that in practice, and they just overheated halfway through the race, and I could see Luca was struggling as well. So yeah, really tough.
Well, congratulations on your race victory. Of course, that means you start in P20 for the 2nd race of the evening, and it's going to be a bit tricky to overtake. So let's see how you progress through the field. Thanks for joining us, Danny.
Cheers, thanks guys.
Well, it's a first feature race victory of the season for Danny Henny, his 13th victory overall in the F3 Cup. Let's just go over the rest of the results for Harrison. It is a 2nd podium of the season, his 13th overall. Luke Power takes his 2nd ever overall podium and the silver class victory, and the gold class honours going to Gregoire Gomez there, with Alex Stronsma in 5th, Dobutsberger, Basso Power, McIntyre, and Raskovic completing the top 10. And there we see in 20th place, it'll be Nick Alexander starting on the reverse grid pole alongside Alex Smith for race 2. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the first of 2 reverse grid races.